What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of What's Trainwreck Watching. We're going to break down Season 4, Episode 7, the penultimate of this season of The Boys. But first, we got to give a shout-out to our sponsor, Batavia Down.
Batavia Down is more, lots more.
Get down to the Downs, spend a great weekend there. And as always, joined by our friend Maniac. Maniac, how are we doing on this lovely Friday evening, Friday afternoon?
We are feeling good. Always good going into a weekend. Always good with a new episode of The Boys. I will say, this season feels like it came and went already. I know we have the finale next week. I know we still have a lot to go storyline-wise before things wrap up in Season 4. But my goodness, it felt like a train with this season going by.
Yeah, it's been flying. The 3 episodes right at the start really have sped that up, and it feels like it does feel like there's been a lot of changes in this season too. Like they've been kind of flying through too. But this episode, if it all built, there's been a lot of talk critically that it's been, there's been a lot of unevenness from audience and critics alike. But if it was all building up to this episode, I think it's well worth it. We knew they had to kind of build up like the conflict again anyways. And this episode delivered in a way the last season I don't think did, to where we're looking at a finale that's going to be insane. So what was your initial thoughts on the whole episode?
So my initial thought coming away from the episode, obviously was, a lot going into that battle. Obviously A-Train gets revealed as the leak within the 7, and, he'll be on the run. You have, basically kind of just craziness on the 7 side, whereas really it feels like the boys have never been more on the same page. You got Mother's Milk coming back to save the day and deciding, even though he's had this whole thing, right, has been like about securing his family and making his family safe, and then he said he was done. But he had the opportunity for that here, and he stuck behind, and he took care of the boys. So it's kind of a culmination of a lot of old storylines as we begin on kind of new adventures here towards the finale, not just this season, but potentially maybe the series finale of the boys in the next season or two.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It felt like they brought a lot of loose ends that they needed to tie up and start moving forward towards our end game, for lack of a better word, because there's a lot of things in this episode that are satisfying character development and also like terrifying character development too. So we're going to break down the whole episode. I thought it was a really good episode. And one of the things you mentioned, the boys back together. Butcher shows up early on in this episode and tells them, hey, listen, guys, that doctor that we said was dead and is the only one who knew about the virus and whatever else. Yeah, I've actually had him, and I cut off his leg to trick you guys, and he can build a virus, but it's gonna basically wipe out every soup in the world, which is pretty jarring information, I would say, to deliver to just a group of people at one time. He also
I like this season multiple times. Butcher's kind of come to the surface with like a crazy plan, multiple times, and like his whole thing and his whole leverage is he's like, well, I wouldn't be telling you this if if I really was evil or if I wanted to execute it. So it's very funny, and obviously Kessler leads into a great back and forth there where he's kind of talking to him, and I think he snaps at him once and kind of gets people looking at him with that little eyebrow, but yeah, now that's a great dynamic there now, obviously, that we're seeing kind of come to the surface. So yeah, great scene. Classic Butcher here. This is vintage season 4 Butcher. It's gonna be just him being like kind of off the rails.
Yeah, yep. He's delusional. And interesting that we didn't see Becca in this scene, or I don't think we saw her at all either. So it was just Kessler taking over after last week's revelation that's basically his angel and devil in this moment. So in this scene too, he bails Frenchie out against Frenchie's will. So they got some connections, clearly some government connections. Frenchie does not want to be there at all. And in the moment that they're arguing everything, Mother's Milk here is like, listen, Butcher, you have the keys. He goes home. He buys his lady a flight to Belize. He's thinking about buying a flight to Belize. And then as that's going on, a couple of scenes later in the episode, A-Train finds this out and is like, bro, what do you think you're doing? Where are you going? And Mother's Milk kind of has this moment of doubt, I guess, and everything else. But like, were you surprised after we saw how he ended up in the hospital at the last episode? Were you surprised that he was ready to just give it up when they were so close? Or does this track for where Mother's Milk has been and kind of his journey?
No, I did think this was like what the end of his story, right? Like this was gonna be him
Yeah.
leaving the boys. This was his end he always wanted. With that said, I guess it's kind of anti-typical that he gives a typical like hero's return because again, his whole thing is that he isn't a hero, anything like
Mhm.
that. Now the funny thing, I love entertainment when I'm thinking something and they say it right on screen. Him printing out the boarding pass, I was like, what fucking year is it? Like 2008? Like seriously, with him doing that, but that was so funny that A Train called him out right away. That was hysterical. I love it. The Boys is always good for that. It's got kind of just like the crazy action of like the MCU can bring that to the table, along with the humor of like a Family Guy / like Ted.
Yeah, it was great seeing there. And with A Train, man, it's like he seems more confident that he's just being like a good guy. Like I don't know if he's completely a good guy. He definitely realizes the Seven are fucked up and Vough's fucked up and wants out of that. But like he just seems like he's like in control of all these situations where in the last couple seasons he's been like obviously, I mean, I guess he's been being controlled, so it makes a lot of sense that way. But you know what I mean about like where he's come around with this face turn. It feels like it's just more natural for him in general, and he makes obviously a big save later, which we'll get into. It's one of my topics here later on.
Yeah, A Train's a tweener. You've been waiting the whole kind of season, especially for him to make that full face turn. I was a little surprised that he mentioned directly how the kid made him feel. I didn't think we needed to be hit over the head with it like that, but
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, yeah, it was great. It was great. There's no doubt on that. I mean, and again, A Train, again, I don't know if we're ever gonna get him on like the Boys member or anything, but I mean, yeah, that's definitely something that would be interesting to see A Train and Starlight working with the Boys to potentially do the final takedown of Homelander.
yeah, we'll see where he's at. I did have a thing for this with A Train, and it's just they need this. They need the power, that's for sure. They need just in general, just the firepower to go against Homelander and everything else. It's great to have him along, and it seems like it's trending towards that way, towards the finale and everything else. But the big plan of this episode, and what I assume this finale will be centered around, as we can suspect, is that the boys find out that there's a plan to assassinate the president on the insurrection day, insurrection part 2, 2025, 2024, whatever this would be, as Singer's about to get brought in. And they go to this, like, I don't know, was it an empty apartment building or something like that? And they're searching around and they figure out the plan there. And they find this girl in the closet. And I should mention that this is Starlight, Butcher, and Huey that are there. And then the girl attacks them, and then we figure out that she is a shapeshifter, and they lose her in the pursuit and don't know where she's gone. But safe to assume she's the assassin that has been hired in this role. And I don't know, how do you feel about shapeshifters in general in like as a comic book, character, power, and like plot device? How do you feel about that just on a broader scale?
I mean, to be honest, I love it.
Okay.
I love it when it's executed right. I mean, to be honest, with the Skrulls in Secret Invasion, I kind of liked it when they got like a wound, like they were kind of revealed or whatever, things like that. Or like basically just the idea that if you have a wound or if you're incapacitated in any way, you can't shapeshift. I like that. It seems like they're going with the little blink of the eyes. I mean, I guess is their thing for the shapeshifters Now, what was the name of the shapeshifter that used to kind of be like Homelander's crony that would make him feel good again? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember. Don't remember who that was.
Because he was a different kind of shapeshifter. He would like just morph. Whereas now, like these shapeshifters that we're seeing, they can like look at somebody, but then they kind of have to like shed their skin, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, it was a really gross scene when they were chasing her. She's like ripping off all
of
her.
Absolutely.
This episode was disgusting. This episode was
And I'm glad you also mentioned that like the build up to the apartment scene was kind of sketchy, because I felt the same way. It was like all of a sudden they're in this apartment and they're running into this woman in a closet, and it kind of felt like I didn't even know how they got there, but I think they just talked it through in like the office scene previously. But you're right, it was a little sketchy.
Yeah, I'm glad that you agreed with that, because I was like, oh, this kind of just happened up quick, and then they were just there talking to her and everything. But she disappears into the wind, and then this story kind of disappears into the wind. We don't really hear about it the rest of the way, except we know about the plan about the president, which is Huey in this little fight gets slashed on his hand, and Starlight's like, go get that checked out, like go get stitches or whatever. Instead of going to get stitches, he decides to make his bold move, his hero play, of the season, really, and goes to talk to Newman at her house. I guess she's moving out, getting ready to move to Washington or wherever else her new digs are going to be and everything. And just tries to be like, listen, do we really have to do this? Like, can we figure out another way? And she's just in too deep. I think she's kind of scared, honestly. I don't think she knows what to do.
Well, she's definitely leveraged into a corner. I mean, only a fool would go against Homelander at this point, obviously, which speaks to the boys and why they're such, a ragtag, like, fun group to root for. But, yeah, so, I mean, the real thing here that bothers me with Huey is that he went over there and besides, sorry,
no,
hello?
I can hear you. I didn't know you were going to go after Huey, so that's why I was waiting to hear it.
Oh, okay, yes. Oh, okay, all right. Well, no, I got to go after Huey, and here's the reason, Mr. Micah, is because he went over there. He had no golden bullet. He didn't have the golden gun. He had no argument that could tell Victoria Newman that she really needed to do this. It was more of like a debate where he kind of was like, well, it's going to become a crazy situation if it keeps escalating like this. Yada, it's going to be like kind of final destination for both sides. He didn't really have anything that was like this is the proof and this is why it's got to be that way. And that was why I think her reaction was kind of the same. It wasn't an outright no. It was more just have nowhere else, no other recourse but this. And that's why I think it was a little bit foolish for him to go over there without a golden bullet.
You know what? You're right. Huey kind of just walked in there and was like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? What's going on?
Exactly. So, he did have the good angle that if we out you, you're gonna out us. If you out us, we're gonna out you. Like, it's kind of just like one way or the other. But he had no silver bullet and definitely nothing more attractive to facing Homelander. I think if anybody brings something to the table that could actually take out Homelander, the whole discussion becomes different. But again, he didn't even bring that to the table, really in their back and forth, because obviously they don't want to reveal the only other alternative they have that they're working on.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to. They can't give that one away yet, not just yet. But she was shocked by the president part, and that was the key thing there. She's like, damn, this is beyond me at this point, but there's nothing I can do, and that's sad for her. But yeah, Huey, he's had it rough though, and he has it rough this whole episode too. So I'll give him a pass. But I do get where you're coming from. He was kind of just haphazardly. I feel like it was another Huey moment where he just felt like he needed to do something. You know what I mean? Huey has a lot of those moments in this. More earlier Huey than anything else, but he still has that. So let's get to one of the big parts of this, and it's a big confrontation here. We have to start with the Deep, who before the Deep, his big plot in this episode, I should say, before he ends up in this scene that we're going to talk about, he is arguing with I can't remember Ambrosius the octopus. She found out about Sage. Yeah, Ambrosius or Ambrosia. Something like that. And he smashes her tank and just lets her die, and just it's pretty sad, honestly. It's kind of it's what perfectly you said about Family Guy thing. Not funny, but it was just way too long going on, like a Family Guy bit. And it kind of turned Deep into a psycho. And he goes to Homelander, is like, I will kill anybody for you. I think he says all the fish in the ocean. And Homelander sends Deep and Noir to go just take on Starlight and Butcher and take him out once and for good. Were you surprised by that, to see that the Deep when he showed up in their office, and then what the impending fight we got there after that?
No, it was kind of the Homelander effect, right? It's like that classic scene, and I think it's from season 1, episode 1 of Breaking Bad, where he's getting told he has cancer, and you just kind of can't hear anything in the background except someone's lightly being talked to. Yeah, Homelander's had been doing that, and the Deep just wants to dissociate right now. I mean, he had to get rid of his main side bay. He had to break the tank, and then the scene where he's outside the closet door, and she just pleads 6 different times, and then lets out the last "I love you." Crazy, absolute bonkers scene. Over the top and amazing in all the best ways. But yeah, Deep is looking for any excuse to basically just think about anything else. So if he's got to go on a murdering spree, that's what he's got to do.
Yeah, he was really ready for that right away. Yeah, really. I mean, you could tell he was broken up by it. He had a sincere connection with Ambrosia there, but he's picking, he likes that power, and he's really is if we're talking about who Homelander trusts in the 7, Deep is I mean, he's probably second place right now, right? Like, honestly, of everybody he trusts in Vought and everything else. So the fight ensues. They're going at it, tag team title match, all those things. And then, as we were talking about, the A-Train babyface save comes in, helps them get out of the situation. Mother's Milk makes his return, helps them get out of it. I think he takes out Noir with some kind of rifle or machine gun that Butcher had brought out in the fight. But the big thing is A-Train coming, saving them, revealing to the team that he's the leak, and then he bounces. He says, see you later. But it sets up well where if they need they're going to need his help, honestly, in the next episode. We can just say that flat out when we get to the ending and talk about everything that's going on. They're going to need A-Train's help desperately. And that team of Mother's Milk and A-Train, whatever rapport they've built, is going to be important for the boys. But this is an awesome scene. One of my favorites they had this season.
Yeah, great action sequence. You have Noir with the narcolepsy, hysterical in the middle of the battle. Now I'm confused. Like, what
great.
is Noir's armor made out of? Because he's taking shotgun shells and he's just like kind of deflecting them off. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that was crazy when that was happening. But yeah, great battle. And then I can't recreate it the right way, or accurately. But yeah, when A-Train makes the save and Deep kind of has that moment, it doesn't fully process for him all at once. He's like, wait, you're the leak, bro? That was hysterical. That was just so funny. So yeah, obviously Tumult and the boys. Tumult. Do we have a name for this office, the boys HQ? It's just kind of this office they show up to, right? They do most of it. Mallory set them up with,
and everybody just knows where it is. People have just been showing up there all season. They're not hiding out or it's not. You can't call it a hideout. So an office is definitely a better term for it.
Yeah, we've been talking about it. The sneaking around and the stealthiness of the boys over the last season and a half has been getting a little lax, and I guess it makes sense that they would know, based on that. Wherever, I mean, A-Train can just go to any plot point he needs to go to. Apparently.
Exactly. Hey, that's the nice thing about being the fastest man in the world. You can be places pretty quick. But the thing is, and I don't understand. And we can talk about this in the next topic too. We can move on from A-Train, but I have a question for you because it wasn't it wasn't the best idea to just send the Deep and Noir and think he could take them out. Obviously, they weren't. When Homelander tells them to do that, he's not thinking A-Train's going to turn on him or do anything like that. But I see why people haven't made moves since all the politics and everything that's been going on. You can see why they haven't tried to just kill Homelander. Well, they can't kill Homelander, so they're going to try to kill Homelander. But you can see why Newman hasn't made any attempts. Homelander is kind of he's not killing Newman or not going on any of crazy killing sprees out in the open or anything like
going
that.
Against Homelander is basically trying to wrestle Hulk Hogan from 1970 to 2002. You have just not seen anybody beat this guy continuously enough to where they're better than him. You have no hope of overall beating him. It's not going to work for him, brother.
That's perfectly said. So why is Homelander not trying to kill them just all the time? That's what I don't understand.
There's something about the only example I could think of and this came to me pretty quickly, just now, is in Game of Thrones season 1. There's an opportunity where Eddard Stark is basically down, and Jaime Lannister could just kill him. Jaime Lannister, but he doesn't kill him because it's the dishonorable way to do it, and he cares about how he's viewed, and that's almost exactly Homelander, right? It's Homelander would love nothing more than to just literally punch Starlight's head off. He really would. I think we've probably even seen visions of it at some point. But literally, it's he kind of wants it done by somebody else through some other event in some other way, and that's how he wants it executed. Now, obviously, Sage has been able to keep it at bay because he's been kind of listening to Sage for the first 5 to 6 episodes. But in this episode, we've seen that he's all fueled up on the good stuff, and he ain't listening to Sage no more.
That is 100% true. Yeah, I guess the culture war makes a lot of sense for why Homelander can't just go take them all out. Because if, even say that he goes and does this thing and Starlight survives or Huey survives and, the rest of them don't, they can still rile up, the base and be like, Homelander did this and then go to that way. So it makes sense. Sage, though, too smart for her own good. She gets fired from the 7. Maybe she saw this coming because of where her influence started lacking. She wasn't invited to a meeting earlier on. It was Firecracker, Homelander, and Ashley. And she was like, "What's good?" Like, "Oh, we pushed it back, whatever." But she says that the mole, like, it was all a misinformation campaign, and that she was working. She knew A-Train was the leak after Homelander was trying to find it, but it was all part of her angle. Do you think that that's true? Do you think that this is all another plan? Is there another shoe to drop? Like, because wouldn't that mean that if that's the case, if he's the leak and he's pending her, misinformation and everything, then are the assassination plans different? Are they for somebody else? Are they for Newman? Is it something like that's what I'm wondering? Like, how far was she going? Was she just lying to like save her ass, or does she really have a greater plan in play that's still in action and Homelander's just going to kind of see it play out next episode?
Yeah, so I think Sister Sage may have been scrambling in real time in the fact that obviously Homelander can make anybody nervous. But you look at the scoreboard, I mean, since she's been brought on, like, the boys haven't really made any progress on anything. They haven't made any progress on the virus. They obviously do have it here in the last episode with a long shot opportunity to beat those legs. But yeah, I think, Sister Sage wasn't as much scrambling as she thought, as I may have thought she was in real time when it was happening. What about you?
I honestly think I'm with you because we've never known her intentions. We've talked about this a couple different times when we've been doing this reviews. Like, we don't know what her plan is. Like, is she actually trying to help Homelander? Is she a good person who thought the only way to take out Homelander was to be the actual mole in there and kind of work from the inner circle and try to take him out? Like, I feel like that's a possibility, in that the reason she used A-Train for misinformation was because he was the one that she saw from studying the group and everything else that had the ability to turn and do good, right? Like, I feel like she's going to be the key to the next episode, because this is all her plan. And what was her true intention? Like, what did she want out of it? So I think she might have been flustered that she got fired in the moment, and not that because she's not going to have control over the, how the circumstances go in the next episode. But I think it's still according to her plan, and we'll find out her true intentions afterwards.
And I think the only thing we've seen, which kind of makes sense for her scrambling, is that she kind of struggles with like the human emotion of everyone, like the ones that you can like calculate. And Homelander's clearly being emotional in this decision making. So I think maybe that makes a little bit of sense there. But yeah, I'll go on record. I think you feel the same way. I'll be a little disappointed if the smartest person in the world didn't have like either an underlying plan or something behind the scenes on that. So far, it's only, although I guess the end of the episode does reveal kind of a good plot idea that they have.
Yeah, it definitely does. So we'll see what her true intentions are, or if it's just maybe it's a power play for herself. Let's talk about Ryan quick. I don't remember what the song is. The song, I can hear the song, but I can't remember the content of said song. But they're having the song. He's on a Vought TV special. He's supposed to be, basically just spewing Homelander propaganda at this whole time. And he makes a stand. He gets up and says a speech. He says, "This isn't right. Like, my mom told me to tell the truth. I miss her. He talks about how much he misses his mom and how much he enjoyed spending time with family and spending time with her and everything like that." And he's about to give us some kind of revelation at the end, and he stops short of it and walks off. Homelander's watching this whole time, but Ryan has too much of his mom in him for Homelander. I don't know if that's a problem for Homelander or not, if he still thinks he can turn him, or if he's going to have to be like, listen, I don't know if I can control this kid.
Yeah, he's got a lot of his mom in him, and the problem for Homelander is, who the fuck does he think that Ryan learned this from? He's been watching him all season, boss around all these people at Vought, call all the shots, basically say they're superior people. So when he's sitting around with some bullshit, what is the kid going to think? He's going to think, I'm above this. I don't need to do this. And that's exactly what he did with his kind mom's gentle heart. So that was very cool. Very cool dynamic there.
It's a great point. Yeah, he just makes a stand, and that Homelander was telling him, take no shit, right? Like, we're superior beings, and he's using that power, but he's using it for some more good. So maybe he's really been the key, and that's what Butcher says. And we'll get to that in a little bit. The last thing we need to touch on before the ending of this episode is
real quick on Ryan too. So when he heard the producers going back and forth, it's a funny dynamic versus Homelander. I think when he was up there with Starlight, he's like, "Don't you fucking cut the camera, Stan," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then versus where Ryan's like, "Please keep rolling." Like, it just speaks to like the dynamic that they both have, clearly.
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, exactly. Like he's getting the same power, getting the same respect, but doing it in a much more human way. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that in the next episode. I'm sure he's going to be a big part of it for the finale. Let's touch on the virus before the ending.
Yep.
So Kimiko and Frenchie are tasked with, kind of watching Samir and making sure he's still doing what he's supposed to do with the virus and everything else. And they have a nice moment together. We find out why Kimiko doesn't speak.
Amazing origin story.
Incredible. So she's, told not to speak and be silent when she's sent on these assassination missions, girls her age she's killing and everything else. And she says, I can't speak. Like after one of the specific times, like, I can't do it. And so they're kind of working through their guilt, her and Frenchie there. Obviously, we know Frenchie was feeling guilty about all the pain he caused in the past and everything else. And they have a nice moment where they're like, listen, we're letting Samir go. Like once he's done with this, like we want this man to go live his life and do what he needs to do. We can't kill him or do anything. They say we know it's going to piss Butcher off, but that's why it's the right thing to do. So these guys aren't really like they're doing what Butcher wants them to do in this moment, but it's not for him as much as it's for the overall mission of it all. Samir though had other plans. Stabs Kimiko with the virus in her leg, and we kind of see how it starts working, and it's moving up her leg, so it doesn't infect them right away, which is good to know. Moving up it, and this was the grossest scene I've seen on this show, as Frenchie goes and literally just cuts off her leg before the virus takes over completely, and I literally stood up and started like walking around. I couldn't watch it like straight on. It was so gross, but he makes the biggest save of the season so far, because that could have been really bad. But it was nice to see how that thing works when we know it's going to come into play either next episode or all next season.
Yeah, great sequence. Was it Walking on Sunshine that was playing when they were doing it?
Yes. Yeah.
Butterfly or
Yep.
The other thing, so we cut off the leg, great scene, obviously. Like you said, cringeworthy. This is another example. This has been happening almost all season, almost all series of the boys. But there's building action in the beginning, and then like so much shit happens in the second half of the episode, you almost can't remember the rest. But yeah, so we got the leg on ice. Now I missed it, but did her leg already go back?
I don't think we've seen her leg yet, but I think I think we're assuming that it's coming back. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing, just jumping back before we kind of get, I know we're talking the ending here, and we'll get into that. But real quick, because I went to a couple different reviews, and they had different opinions on this. Did you think that Black Noir and Sage actually fucked? Because
I thought so in the moment, but
I read a couple reviews that said yes, but I thought no watching it live. Like I thought it was just the Deep's insecurities coming out, the why he was asking about that. But I guess I may have missed something. So
well, she said something about, or he said something about, or he said something about the Deep said something about the lobotomization, and they're like, what? Yeah. And so my impression was that they were, and that she didn't lobotomize herself, that she enjoyed it with Black Noir, and she had to lobotomize herself to hook up with the Deep. That's what I thought was going on. So it was more like attacking the Deep.
Okay, yeah. So that went right over my lobotomized brain. So I'll take that. But that's actually even more hilarious for the Deep, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Deep's down bad.
Okay, but yeah, grand finale time.
Grand finale time. So as we saw Ryan's speech at the end. And Butch shows Butcher watching it in a bar with Kessler next to him, and he's like, "That's why you have faith in the boy. That's why you trust him." And he's right. Like he's always had faith in the person that Ryan could be because of Becca and the person that she knew she could be. He has an argument with Kessler going back and forth a little bit, and he stands up and passes out on the floor, and they have to call 911. We're left with wondering where Butcher, what's his state going to be in the next episode? Is he dead? Is he alive? All this other stuff. What do you think of Butcher? Do you think he's alive in the next episode? What do you think is going to happen with him?
I do think he's going to be alive in the next episode. Something's going to go on. The one thing I guess that we're led to believe, which is kind of ridiculous just because it's obviously like an infection, aneurysm, whatever's going on in his brain with the infection. But it's definitely calling the shots now because he was, basically trying to get it to help him during the middle of the battle,
with Kessler, and then basically the second he told Kessler to fuck off in the bar, he almost lost like all power to live. So I think we're gonna see Butcher coming back, but it's gonna be like some kind of like I don't want to say zombie Butcher because that just sounds ridiculous, but just some version that's like almost like how Jon Snow came back from death and was kind of like a little more edgier, but the Butcher version.
I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, because he does, Kessler is like smiling as he's going down and everything. So maybe it is like a look of like, oh yeah, I have full control over this situation. So yeah, I wonder what we'll see with Butcher. But then how the show ends officially going into the finale. We see Huey and Starlight having a conversation in their bedroom. Huey's admitting that he went to go see Newman and was like, I was just trying to make peace and see what I could do and talk to her. Starlight shows up walking out of the closet in her outfit, which was, that should be the first thing that you should notice something weird's going on. Red flag right away. I put up at the beginning of this episode, she's standing there with this really weird smile, which was the biggest red flag for me. I was like, that is not a girl that's Starlight. It's a girl, why does she look so unnatural right now in this moment? And then she hooks up with Huey. Huey passes out, and then we get the reveal as Starlight is still awake that it's not Starlight. It's our shape-shifting assassin who has replaced Starlight, and Starlight is locked up who the hell knows where, to some chain. We see the lady's skin on the ground in front of her, and this was a huge twist to end this penultimate episode now, as we see the plot, as you were mentioning earlier, where Sister Sage comes into form, that the shapeshifter is going to appear as Starlight, I would assume, at this assassination attempt and try to kill the president, which would cause quite a few issues. Maniac, quite a few issues.
Yeah, you want to talk about disaster. This went from the boys on, the attack to being on the absolute defensive given this situation, because I mean, they are caught with their pants down here. I mean, I was shocked. I didn't know what she was doing when she was going for the laptop. It didn't set on me until I saw the eye blink, but yeah, just an absolutely awesome ending. And yeah, if this is any, I think it's going to be messy. I think this finale is going to be messy. I could see, do you think the president survives?
I was going to ask you how many people you think survive. I think we get a couple casualties here. I don't think the president survives.
I would say at least, I'd say the over-under is 2 for named characters to die in this finale for sure. And if Newman starts going nuts, I mean, you could run into the double digits with even with known characters.
I don't think the president survives. I think somehow Newman's president at the end of this episode. I don't think she dies either. I could see Deep and A-Train. I could see with potential deaths there.
Yeah, and I think that Homelander basically being like the de facto president through Newman essentially is like is a good trajectory. Like last season, you end with him killing someone, and like nobody really cares. They're rooting him on. Now you've got the full enchilada of everyone,
government,
government, everything. He wanted to take out the government. Now he is the government.
Do you think Sage is this Sage's plan? Did she want Homelander in charge, or does she have something in the wings there?
I think that Sage thinks that if they can execute the plan, that she's going to be in charge basically anyways, right? Like, essentially that if she can, like an offensive coach running up like 70 points or whatever, if it shows that that's why, if she's why, the success happened, that she thinks she'll be along for the ride. But I would not put it past her to have some kind of last second ulterior plan. Again, you're not going to be Homelander physically. So something, it would have to be something else, like basically hypnosis wise, but we'll figure it out.
And I wonder, so the big thing with Starlight now, the last thing we can touch on is like, how much does she have to interact with the boys or anybody at this point? Or is it going to be a thing where Annie's missing? Where is she? Like, we haven't seen her type thing. Like, because I don't know how the hell they're going to find her unless it's just someone being cocky that shows up, like Firecracker shows up and tries to talk shit to her and Starlight gets out of it somehow or something. You know what I mean? Like, what's the play with how does Shapeshifter Starlight factor into the whole episode, not just the ending that we assume at least?
Well, I think the most painful way to do it for sure. I mean, I think somehow Huey's going to realize.
Yeah.
There's some slip up, or maybe like, I don't know how the shapeshifter, maybe there's something where, like I'm using this as a terrible example, but if the shapeshifter burps, it it flashes like the other form like real quick or something.
Yeah.
Like something's going to happen that's going to be like immediate that the shapeshifter won't notice that Huey noticed. And it's going to happen because
the dread is going to set in for Huey, knowing that he had sex with the shapeshifter and his Starlight's gone all at the same time. So he's going to like bring like the boys all into like a closet and start whispering. Like it'll be I can already see it happening for sure. But yeah, I think Huey's going to realize, and we're going to have some kind of build up to where eventually the shapeshifter gets away, but they know that they have to look for Starlight to like stop it all essentially.
Yeah, I could see that too. And then maybe poor Starlight, poor Huey and poor Starlight right now. It's been a rough season for both of them, that's for sure. It's gonna be interesting to see how Annie gets herself out of that situation. We'll see where Butcher ends up too, and we still got the virus at play. There's a lot of factors at play going into this finale, then heading into potentially the last season. But this was a great episode, Maniac. I loved this episode, and this was a great episode of What's Trainwreck Watching, presented by Batavia Downs. It's a happy hour episode right there, Maniac. Next week we'll be talking finale.
Next week we'll be talking finale, but for tonight, it's rocking the Downs, baby. We're in Batavia. Check it out on the timeline. But yeah, looking forward to the boys finale next Thursday for sure. Can't wait to see what happens.
Cannot wait. All right, everybody. Have a good night now. Have a great